If you can't change the body, change the mind, and the body will follow. If you can't change the mind, change the body, and the mind will follow. Our mind and our body are not two separate things. And as we work to improve an individual's structure through the Soma series, there tends to be what I'll call a consciousness shift. The us that lives inside of our body also feels a transition. I'm going to try to explain it here as best as I can. It may seem a little bit convoluted because it is an abstract thought being articulated in a linear way. Now let's hypothetically say an individual has been living in a very unstable structure, a structure in which gets injured continuously, has not necessarily been taught the right and most efficient ways to move, the way that the body was designed. And essentially that's all that they know. A very rigid, stagnant structure. As we start to move the body into a more stable, free-flowing, more easy to adapt structure, you can imagine that that individual that lives inside the body, that can't escape that body, might possibly, as they start to feel more stable, more free-flowing, more able, you can start to imagine that that individual is going to start to feel more stable. They're going to have a little bit more stable of a consciousness, which you could also call a confident structure, or a confident person. That person that's in that more stable structure might also feel a little bit more able to know that there's a little bit less fear that is, or less likelihood that they're going to create injury, which in turn can start to create less fear. The biggest problem that most people feel is they are almost accepting of the comfortable. Even though that what I call comfort island may be incredibly hard and painful, the transition or the journey into a more stable structure is scary, because in that transition you move into an area of the unknown. You move into an area that you have never lived in before. What I've experienced through taking people through the 11 session series is people are quite fearful of stepping away from what they have lived in their entire life. They didn't know that there was another possibility. They didn't know that the body was and the mind is changeable. The transition is really the only scary part. When an individual moves into this more stable structure and lives in it and starts to recognize that it's actually easier than staying in this pain-ridden structure that's not working with gravity, they start to recognize there's a lot more fun and things to happen. If you feel like you need to work through a transition, go ahead and go on to tensegritypllc.com and we can work more in depth on your individual self to be able to bring you into the best possible self that you can be, both physically and consciously. Okay, thanks. Talk to you soon.